Casting some broads.
We're doing it. Doing it live. It's happening.
Okay.
What language did it say this time? Oh,
What do
Spanish or Italian?
That is
I don't know.
Transmisión. It still looks like Portuguese to me.
Portuguese, maybe.
yeah.
I think we just have. Are we big in Brazil? Is that what's going on?
I
Or
don't know.
It's all you, Greg. It's your influence.
I mean, Brazil's a big Sega place, so
Your hot Generation 16 web series is bringing in our Brazilian listeners.
it seems to be.
Sure is.
It must
Sure
be
is.
my love for Sega and my waxing habits.
Ooh. Picks, please.
Yikes.
That's for Patreon funders only.
Picks,
I will be right back.
CJ needs 5 minutes to himself.
I need to yank my Patreon funding.
He's gonna yank something, but I don't think it's Patreon funding.
I'm back.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Riz.
CJ, you look out of breath.
Whew.
They call me
right.
the Jackhammer.
All right.
Yeah.
Should we do this thing? Let's do it.
People are weird, man.
What else?
Hello and welcome to episode 532 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, January 17th, 2017. I'm your host, Chris Johnston. With me, as always, from Canada, Mr. Greg Seward.
T-minus 3 days till the end of the world.
We're getting
You
there,
think?
man.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what day that is?
What's that?
That's my wife's birthday.
Oh man,
She shares her birthday with America's Death Day.
Not only is he going to ruin America, but he's ruining your wife's birthday for the rest of your life.
We're going to lose half of our listeners.
Well,
You realize.
Well, that's
Every time-
only. That's
every
only.
time the show gets
I don't know what. No, wait. I don't know what you guys were talking about. I was talking about the Wii Music drummer dude.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
I.
Because
yeah.
he's playing at the inauguration. That's what I don't know.
Robbie
who
Drum's
you guys
coming
were
back.
talking- Yeah.
And joining me from the great state of California, Mr. Filthy Ewald. Hello.
We're only losing about half our listeners if you go by the Electoral College. If you go by popular vote, though, we're actually going to lose slightly less.
Slightly less than
Oh,
that.
slightly less. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
And also from California, Mr. Ethan Einhorn.
hey, T-minus 48 days until the start
Jesus
of the new world.
Christ.
Oh, there it goes. But before we get into that,
Enthusiasm already dropping.
before we get into that,
And I got to get some props ready here.
Dun.
before we get into that, let's talk about some other news that hit last week.
What's that?
Sony closed down Gorilla Cambridge. They
Yeah.
were the folks behind Rigs for PlayStation VR.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that sucks.
bad news there.
Yeah.
It's not.
And go ahead.
I was going to say it's not just Rigs. It's Killzone Liberation that they did, which I think is still arguably the best Vita game outside of maybe Persona 4. It is absolutely the state of the art for handheld gaming. Nothing comes close to this day. And so it's a shame that they made that and they made Rigs, which is also arguably the best VR game in the market right now. And that their closing is just a travesty. It seems like they're always just a little bit too far ahead of the curve.
Sounds like Sega.
Yep. Also, some bad news over on the Xbox side. Platinum Games Scalebound,
Yeah.
which was due to hit the Xbox One, canceled.
Scaled back.
Scaled all the way back.
Yeah.
one might
way
say.
Well,
back.
and
Way
the
back.
thing is with this is it's a double whammy because it's not just that the game's being canceled, but it means that we're losing a chance to play a new Kamiya-san game. So it was the same lead director who created Bayonetta.
Mhm.
He is arguably the top talent at Platinum now that Shinji Mikami's not there. So it's a real shame that we don't get to see this, because it seems like there's always been A Platinum and B Platinum. B Platinum being like, Legend of Korra and Turtles and stuff like that. But this was, the best of breed at Platinum, making a multiplayer co-op game that I was dying to play.
Yeah, and not to mention a big Xbox One exclusive that is now gone off the list.
Which means that right now there's only 2 remaining exclusive Xbox games that have been announced for 2017, which is Halo Wars and Crackdown 3. There's literally nothing else that is exclusive to Xbox right now.
And has Crackdown 3 even been given a date?
I was going to say, you got to wonder about Crackdown 3 in general.
Yeah,
I'm worried about Crackdown 3.
That's what you should be.
When Scalebound got canceled, I was like, oh, what does this mean for Crackdown? Like, if Microsoft is in a canceling mood.
I mean, you got to figure though, there's more Halo news coming at E3. You got to figure
Halo
Forza 7 is probably this year.
Halo 6.
So there'll be something.
Yeah, we haven't seen it all, but there's an article that I think everyone should read at GameIndustry.biz by their best writer, Rob Fahey, that talks about this and speculates that maybe the reason we're not seeing much right now on the exclusive front is because of Scorpio, and it might be that Scorpio is actually handled as a real full next generation launch as opposed to an iterative thing, and that's why they're holding back titles.
I hope not.
Could be, but then why did they cancel Scalebound? Like, they could have just moved it over to Scorpio.
Yeah, it could be that it was a troubled project too. I mean, maybe it just wasn't.
One doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other. But
That's
I mean, I can see what you're saying. Ethan. Like, it could be that they're. I wouldn't. Yeah, I hope that it's not considered like an entirely new console. They're still doing the whole, compatible across all platforms, all Xbox One platforms. But I could see them. That makes sense. I could see them treating it as a big console launch.
Well, what that writer was saying, which I think is really compelling, is that it's not a healthy position for Microsoft to be existing with just a subset of the PlayStation library as their entire library.
For sure.
Definitely. Let's hope that Crackdown 3 actually happens. Please.
Nice.
And also, please let it be good. Because, to be honest, after Crackdown 2, I'm not sure that Microsoft knows how to make a sequel to Crackdown.
Well, let's hope that they learn from that, because that felt like they just really rushed something out with a really low development budget, and
which
players responded.
Which I heard from somebody who worked on Crackdown 2 that was the case. They gave them like no budget and very little time to finish. So that's why it felt like a map pack, because they used the same city.
Same map.
So completely same map. So
a map pack with the exact same map.
Map pack with same map. Yeah. New hat. Some new colors. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to the big topic of the week. Of course, I am referring to
Gravity Rush 2 coming this Friday.
That's exciting.
I am there. The demo was fantastic, and I can't wait for the
Phil.
reveal. Yes,
that is not what I'm referring to. However, that is indeed exciting. What
are you
I'm
talking
referring to, of course, is last Thursday's Nintendo Switch presentation 2017.
Oh, was that on Thursday? Oh, I
Did
missed
you
that.
not- did you
What
not watch that?
happened?
You didn't miss much.
What happened? What-
You didn't miss much.
I didn't miss much, and I missed the next step in gaming's evolution. Is the opinions you'll be hearing on this podcast.
Greg and I joined Kevin Larrabee and Josh Hillier on Back in My Play. We did a stream pre-presentation and post-presentation, and it's amazing to listen to. Like our hopeful words at the beginning, crushed by the price tag at the end.
It was, I haven't heard. I heard that Kevin actually edited so that the reactions were the first thing on the audio, which was brilliant because it really was amazing. I kind of wished at this point that we'd left our stream going during the actual presentation, because we did keep our call going during the actual presentation. And leading into it, I mean, Kevin was optimistic. Josh and CJ were super pumped for obvious reasons. Big Nintendo fans, really excited. Mm-hmm. I was actually cautiously optimistic because, like I said here on the show last week, I was expecting to see something that was going to grab me and say, okay, now I need this console on day one. And to watch, honestly, watching our stream was a little bit more fun than watching Nintendo's stream, because to watch the optimism just crumble. Not that everyone was like super worried by the end, but the excitement was not there afterwards. It was a bad it was a bad demonstration.
It was really maybe the worst presentation I've seen. Maybe except for the PlayStation Pro conference that Sony had last year, which was equally kind of bad and weird. But yeah, it was. The format was weird. Like, they did some live stage things that didn't really work, and then they had some on video. Which, I mean, why not just do a Nintendo Direct at that point? But I thought the whole conference was presented backwards. It's like normally in a product announcement in the US, which of course this is a Japanese presentation. I'm sure a lot of that is why the way it was structured the way it was. They led with the price and date, which generally speaking, in press conferences, they save that for the end. And then they had that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer at the end, which is like the game everybody is already knows about, is already excited about, that they could have led with.
Yeah,
really kicked off the show in
you're absolutely right.
Or some kind of good vibe thing. They didn't show Mario Kart 8 at all. They spent a whole lot of time on 1-2 Switch and the HD Rumble, which I didn't think really warranted as much time as they spent on it. And then they had that section in the middle where they brought up developers from Japan who had nothing more to say except, yep, this looks pretty cool. We might develop a game for it. And that was all they said. It was
well, and CJ, to add to that, the thing that was strangest to me, having come from Sega, is when Nagoshi-san came up on stage and he basically just said, we're interested in maybe making games for this, and looked at just as a moment in the presentation that made it look like Sega really hadn't committed to doing anything. Why didn't they at that moment say, by the way, we have Sonic Mania, the brand new Sonic game, and Puyo versus Tetris, which are all really exciting games coming to this platform? That was the window where Sega could have talked about 3 games people would be really excited about.
Well, I mean, that is exactly it. That illustrates CJ's point exactly, I think, which is, because I thought the exact same thing, Ethan. It's like, well, he just said that maybe we're going to make games for this thing, but I've seen Sonic in every montage, and like, even there's an Atlas game coming. Atlas and Sega are the same company at this point.
Yes,
right. And like Puyo Puyo Tetris, which to me was huge. I mean, that is actually a big deal.
It's an awesome game.
Yeah,
it's an awesome game.
So weird to have the guy standing there and seem so lukewarm about it.
Yeah.
When they were actually one of the bigger third-party publishers showing during the event.
Yeah,
right. And again, they did show Shin Megami Tensei, and as you said, Atlas is very involved in this as well. So they could have made that sound so much more compelling than they did.
And then you got the Treehouse stuff the next day, and I mean, there was a whole area that was a Sonic Mania area for the demos. But anyway, sorry.
They did some weird stuff too, like that Project Octopath Traveler that was announced. And actually, like, I hear that's the next project from the Bravely Default team. They didn't say that.
It looks great.
They didn't say that during the presentation. They didn't hype that up. They just played this thing. It's like, how am I supposed to know what this is?
Yeah.
Except for a new game from Square Enix. Like, give it some context. And by the end of the presentation, I commented on Back in My Play, it seemed like there were only 2 launch games. Like, they didn't detail which games we would be playing on launch day. It's like, that is the thing you have to get right. Yes, you have to show price. Yes, you have to show the date, but you also have to show which games are going to be available on that day for people to buy.
And there's more than 2, but not by much. So there is the new Zelda, there's the 1-2 Switch, there's Bomberman, there's Just Dance 2017, and then there's Skylanders.
But actually, honestly, Bomberman was another head scratcher for me, because it was sort of mentioned in passing, or shown in passing multiple times during that presentation. And Bomberman is like that's a big deal.
That could be a sizzle reel. Yeah, it could be the system's Geometry Wars,
and it's on launch day. Like nothing indicating any of that. It was just weird. Just weird.
It was
the other thing also,
and also the title I was most excited about was Breath of the Wild. They did that weird thing where Kimishima started wrapping up. I was like, where is Zelda?
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna hear from the other territories," and they spent like 3 minutes doing their spiel, and coming back to Kimishima, who once again said farewell, and then here's a trailer. I had a moment where I thought they were not going to say anything about Zelda, and that was ridiculous. Like I couldn't believe what was happening there.
It was just a poorly set up sort of tease at the end. I can see they're trying to. Oh, by the way, did we mention a new Zelda? But it was just really poorly handled.
Not to mention though, the most beautiful thing. I mean, not only the most beautiful game they showed, but a wonderful trailer. And CJ's right. If that had been the kickoff, now I'm pumped. Like now I'm really excited. It's like, and it's launch day. Great.
But if you lead with that though, what do you follow that up with? 1-2 switch?
Well,
that's true.
They also could have led with Mario Kart.
Yeah, that was the other thing that surprised me because Mario Kart comes 1 month after launch. So it is really a launch window title. They are doing some interesting new things with it. Having Mario Kart 8 on the go is pretty exciting if you already own it. And if you have never played Mario Kart 8, it's the best Mario Kart ever made.
Or they could have led with Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2 was like a huge announcement. They want to kick it off with something big, especially in Japan.
So here's
game. They could have done that.
Here's what I think probably was the reasoning in terms of what they showed. We've seen with other platforms before, the Dreamcast, the Vita, really, really strong day one launch lineups that then leave players without anything to play for months on end. I think that probably theoretically Nintendo could have chosen to have a launch lineup that included Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart, and ARMS. And I imagine what they chose to do instead of putting them all day one is to just roll it out, with the opportunity to keep people interested in getting something new every couple months throughout the year. So that you don't have that 6 month gulf of nothing.
I think you're absolutely right, but it's also
that's smart. Hugely smart.
Well, the problem is though, it's hugely smart for the position they're in, which goes back to what I've been complaining about for years and what I was worried about with this console is that they're in that position for a reason, and it doesn't look like they've done anything to fix it.
Yeah, the third party problem is what you're talking about.
So you're taking out what could be a very strong launch lineup or launch window lineup and spreading it out over 12 months.
I was hoping
they've been in for a while now.
I was hoping that we would see stronger support from third parties. Like it was really lacking. Like kind of shockingly so.
Shockingly?
Oh, I thought Ubisoft would have had
disappointing
in the presentation.
Yeah, this is Nintendo we're talking about.
Okay, so one thing.
Yeah.
I want to first of all say that may be surprising to you guys. I also did think that the games on display suggested an anemic lineup that didn't leave me particularly excited. I was disappointed in that. But I do want, that being said, and making no apologies, I want to read out just a very short list, and you'll know where this is headed. Feel the Magic, Madden NFL 2005, Ping Pals, Ridge Racer, Spider-Man 2, Sprung, demo of Metroid Prime Hunters, Super Mario 64 DS, and Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2005.
Yeah.
That was the launch lineup for the DS.
But to me, I think you're absolutely...
You smack about Ping Pals?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree that this is not the first launch lineup to be only a handful of games. But this is not a handheld launch. This is supposed to be Nintendo's next console.
Yep.
Right.
But then that's why it feels light, and especially since we only got like some token announcements from third party that are coming later in 2017, but no actual dates assigned to them.
Yeah. By the way,
that's a problem.
By the way, what year did the DS come out?
2005.
So in less than a year, they reintroduced that system as the DS Lite. They totally overhauled it. It's not like it was a huge hit. Plus, they were coming off of, if you remember, they had the Game Boy Advance to lean on when the DS came out. So not really an apt comparison, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing about the whole presentation, and my feeling on this is that the date in March is a soft launch. basically.
Yeah.
Like they launched
That's what it feels like.
which is a reason to buy the console. But then what they're doing is spacing out the rest of their lineup, hopefully so that there aren't huge gaps in the calendar until the time that Mario Odyssey comes out. Because for a while, we were getting rumors that Mario was going to be on day one.
Right.
And that didn't happen. In fact, it's late 2017. So it's not even like it's coming out a little bit after launch. It's coming out way after launch.
Here's the other thing I think we should all consider, though, is that it feels to me almost like we are this time around getting a chance to participate in the Japanese launch instead of waiting, another 10 months for the US launch, right? So what I mean by that is
that happened with PlayStation 4 also.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's great that Nintendo's doing it this time, but you can't treat it like it's some special thing when it's been happening with other consoles for a long time.
No,
well,
I know.
It certainly happened with the Wii as well. Like this is not new.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, would you be happier if they said releasing March in Japan and releasing November in the United States?
No.
If they did the November release in the US, they'd have a larger launch library, right?
Yeah, but see,
I actually don't think the large launch library is that big a deal, because when you look at the other releases that are coming out next month and in March, Persona 5, Mass Effect, you've got Horizon on the PlayStation, you've got Resident Evil 7 coming out this month. Like there are a lot of games. You've got Gravity Rush 2 coming out later this week. I mean, you've got a lot of really big games coming out in the next few months. Honestly, it doesn't bother me that there's a light launch library for this. What is going to matter is into the fall and holiday 2017, they've got to have compelling software on shelves. They might have to have a pack in by that point.
That's the thing. There's a couple different things to deconstruct, like to take apart there, but the thing is not only that it's a light launch library, but the key launch title is a Wii U game. It's a game you can get on the current console that same day, and that is a problem in my mind. And you're treating it like, they had their hands are tied. Maybe if they'd waited till November, everybody be pissed off as well. True, but Nintendo got themselves into this situation.
Sure.
So
the other thing that I really wonder about is, we saw with Vita, and we're also seeing right now with Oculus Rift, a scenario where, there were not enough customers out there. And so the first parties had to subsidize in full or in part the creation of major games from big publishers. So, Assassin's Creed Liberation was paid for by Sony, so that we were able to get that. Same thing with the Call of Duty game that came out on Vita. Same thing with Epic's game.
Dead Rising.
Right, yeah. Epic's game that's coming out on Oculus, same thing. And so I wonder, I do think Nintendo will need to subsidize, again, in whole or part, some of these games to get something like Assassin's Creed to their platform. Will they do that? Because if they don't, this is going to be really challenging because, again, it's fantastic that we're going to get Nintendo games on the device, but it does need more than that.
Absolutely. Yeah, You're right. And then my disappointment is that they haven't done that for the launch. I feel like by missing that launch window, they may have missed the window to do that and actually have it make a difference. One thing I do want to say, though, somebody mentioned it earlier, I think it was Andrew Webb in our chat, and speaking to a couple of folks at work the day after the launch event as well, or sorry, the announcement event, that I really liked is that what I did like to see about this presentation is there were a lot of developers on stage that weren't Shigeru Miyamoto. Nothing against Shigeru Miyamoto, but it was so nice to see Nintendo trotting out some younger developers instead of treating Miyamoto as sort of a surrogate for all of them.
Yep.
Yeah. That was a nice touch, and I do really applaud the fact that they did it this time around.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too that I'm kind of holding out hope for. We're talking about this library being, or this event really lacking details on anything in and around the launch window, as well as over the next 10 months. We do have E3 coming up. They do need to have something to show at E3. That's new and interesting.
At E3, yeah.
Well, and I think also it's important not to announce things too early. Sure. I think once we get to E3, I do think they had to talk about Mario Odyssey in this presentation, because if they had gone through a presentation without talking about a 3D Mario, it would have been, the reception would have been much, much worse. So, but to me, Nintendo hasn't really tipped their hat between Splatoon 2 and Mario, right? They haven't really said what else is coming out in that space between those two dates. And I figure there's probably something there, but they didn't want to say that this press conference because they wanted to keep attention on the March date and give you a preview what's coming through summer, and then talk about the 3D Mario that everyone's going to be excited for.
Yeah, I think that if that was their plan, though, that was probably a mistake, because I think they really need to show everything to keep people excited about the idea of not just what they get at launch day, but what they get throughout the year. Because right now it just does feel too thin. That's the big problem. Anything to have presented a counterpoint to that would have been valuable.
Okay, speaking of things that are a turn off, let's talk price.
Well, just one last bit, and I do agree with Ethan here, because speaking as one of the people who that showing off Mario, that changed my mind on whether or not I wanted the console this year at all.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the only thing they showed that made me say, that's what I want a Switch for.
Oh, and last thing, and this is really important, is we're assuming that Zelda's going to be great. We're assuming that Splatoon 2 is going to be as good as the first, and that Mario Odyssey is going to be on par with Mario Galaxy. What if they're not?
Yeah, but that's
even one of those.
Nintendo.
That's a pretty safe assumption that they'll be good. Oh, if ARMS isn't good, that's
a
different story. But I think Splatoon's going to be good. I mean, almost how can it not be? And the Mario game, I mean, that team has been doing those games for so many years. I trust the quality bar there.
I know. And again, I know I'm not talking Nintendo, but I'm concerned about, think about Final Fantasy 13 or Resident Evil 6. Sometimes the biggest brands in the world take a misstep.
They do.
That's true.
Yep.
Or Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Wind Waker, which nobody liked, or
see, but Super Mario Sunshine, though, as an example, like you look back on that, it's probably the weakest Mario Brothers game, but it's still a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's a bad game.
So let's talk about pricing.
Yeah.
Because pricing is where I think the most shocking details come in. So we have it's $299.99.
Yeah.
There's one with the gray Joy-Cons, the other with a neon blue and neon red Joy-Con on the sides, coming out on March 3rd. That was the highest of what anybody had predicted.
Yes.
Yeah. I think even the Nikkei a week before had said that it was going to be $250, and people were talking, no, $299. That's the highest that they can go. But to me, the real shocking part is the peripheral pricing. Like the sticker shock really comes in at that point.
Well, before we get on to peripheral pricing, though, I mean, let's talk about the system price, because
let's do it.
Yes, that is the highest that we all talked about, and I think we all agreed on this show before that $300 US would probably be acceptable. But again, speaking as a Canadian, it is way over the acceptable price. And I'm not saying that it's not worth what they're charging. What I'm saying is that price gave me pause.
Yeah, but I mean, think about this. The Wii, when they were launching that, the plan was to get all new players on board, and they did that. Here, I do not think they're trying to convert people who are not gamers into gamers. I think they're trying to target, especially at launch, core gamers. That's one of the reasons why it makes sense that they're launching with Zelda. And I think that they probably will be able to sell out, at least for the first couple of months, the hardware at this price, because I think there are enough people who will pay that much. And then, if down the road they cut the price, that certainly makes sense. But I'm sure they're charging as much as they can relative to the early audience that will eat anything that's Nintendo.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on a lot of different points there. So first of all, I do think they are trying to draw in the non-gamer again. I think that's the reason for the existence of 1-2 Switch. I think that's really the reason for the existence of ARMS. as 2 examples. I also think it's the reason why every single gadget and gizmo you can think of is stuffed into those Joy-Con controllers. Because I'm sorry, they doubled down on everything they did with the Wii with this console. And I mean, they're open about it, which is, that's fine. Things like that IR camera, wow, that sounds awesome. But it is so gimmicky. It is such a gimmick.
And also, they aren't cheaping out on this stuff.
Right. And that's fine. And I know that's why the console costs as much as it does. But I disagree that they're trying to draw in the casual audience, although I do agree that they're not doing it right, because if that was the case, 1-2 switch from what they showed, that should be a pack-in.
Yes,
that is
totally agree with that.
Pack-in, it screams Wii Sports. And then on top of that, the fact that this thing, when it comes to market, is the most expensive console on the market is insane.
It is insane, except for the fact that it's also the newest thing on the market, and audience. But I mean, honestly, Greg, people tend to value more the hot new thing, right? Even if. Go ahead.
I agree that people do value the hot new thing, and I think if you look at this as console launch pricing, so it's going to be higher, and of course it'll come down. I mean, you can look at the PS4 and Xbox One launched much higher than $299.99, but they eventually got down there. The same thing with
the Wii U.
The Wii U.
The Wii U probably was designed
$349.
It wasn't successful, so I think that was the problem.
The Wii U had a lot of problems. Let's just
I'm just talking about history right at this point. But
like people talking about how the peripheral controller prices are high, and yes, they absolutely are. But at launch, extra controllers are a high price. They do come down, but we're talking about, the PS4 and Xbox One at this point are, 3+ years old, right? Mm-hmm. So of course they're going to be lower. Nintendo seems to be packing a lot of technology into these, from the impressions pieces and videos that I listened to over the weekend. People liked the build quality of this stuff, so at least they're not cheaping out. But of course, that means everything is more expensive.
Which is what we talked about on this show before, right? I mean, we knew this thing was going to be expensive, and then when we find out how much they've stuffed into it, we understand why. The problem is that doesn't translate to, I think, value at the counter early on. It just doesn't, especially because if you're targeting a casual market, it would be huge. I think it would be huge, and I think they would have a major hit on their hands if they put something like 1-2 switch in the box, a digital download it in the box. It would make a big difference, huge difference, bigly.
I think they probably will do that in the fall. I think we will probably see Switch configurations with gold Joy-Cons that come with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and we'll see Mario pack-in possibly, or a Mario Kart 8. We'll see a lot of that stuff hit in the fall.
I expect that too. Yes.
Yeah. Mario Kart pack-in down the line seems an obvious choice.
Yeah, but like it or not, I mean, it comes down to this. If you're talking about core gamers, so if we're going with what you're saying, Ethan, about, they're aiming at core gamers. As a core gamer right now, I can go into the store and get an Xbox One with a game for $70 or $80 less than it will cost me to get a Switch right now.
You already own that. Okay, what I'm saying,
I already own that, but no, they're aiming at core gamers.
You're talking about core gamers, and so 2 to 3 years into the cycle of a generation, if you're a core gamer, you have one of the two machines, if not both. So
sure. I mean, that means there's another machine that's still cheaper.
All of what we're talking about relies on Nintendo's effectiveness of delivering the message of the Switch, which is you can play on your TV, you can take it with you, and whether consumers are going to like that message and respond to it or not. And that's the big thing that's up in the air. Who knows? Somebody who's looking at the two machines may think, PlayStation 4 is less, but I can't take it with me. And so if that's a big deal, that may help make their decision. Or I really like this type of game. The PlayStation has it, the Switch doesn't, so I'll go with the PlayStation 4. Nintendo, I think, is doing a great thing by having these preview events all around, because it does sound like you need to get your hands on this thing to really get what they're going for. Yeah, and I think that's a better idea than doing the PSVR, go to Best Buy and have some dude waltz in an hour late and let you try it.
Just looking for another.
I know. Just to
think about that Best Buy.
So, but here's the other thing.
Cut of all your complaints of that Best Buy. I think that'd be great.
Here's the other thing to consider, though. It's like if the alternative was to have something that was closer to what we saw, let's say the GameCube, right, where they release a machine that is maybe about as powerful as a PS4, maybe a little bit more powerful, and it had the first-party exclusives on it, and that was it. I mean, that's where I'd say there's no reason to purchase this thing because I already have an Xbox One and a PS4. You know,
actually, what you're saying.
Oh, go ahead.
Makes a lot of sense, and I think I heard that a lot on Twitter, on podcasts, on videos this weekend. It's like I just want third-party games like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and all that stuff, and it sounds like there's an undercurrent of I just want Nintendo to make what Sony and Microsoft are making, which honestly, why would they want to do that? It's like already Microsoft is making the same console as Sony, and I don't think people don't need multiples of those, right?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because I mean, we all come at this from a standpoint of like Ethan, you're right. I mean, I have a PS4 and I have an Xbox One, so obviously the price difference when I go into the store on March 3rd, those prices really don't matter to me. The thing is that there are I am willing to bet there are a fair amount of people that would consider themselves core gamers that don't own multiple systems, and in fact might just want to trade up to one new system at a time, and actually might want to take advantage of the trade-in offers that places like EB make.
Oh, sure.
But the thing is,
and
this is the argument for saying I want Nintendo to make something that I can play Call of Duty on and that I can play Assassin's Creed on, because then they get that, plus they get Nintendo games, which is what they want. Right. But now what you're doing is you're asking people to pay a premium price for a console that, let's be honest, is going to play Nintendo games and almost nothing else.
Yeah, but I think it's more a case where for core gamers, if we can identify core gamers as by and large people who will eventually own two machines, right? Maybe not right away, but through the life cycle of a generation, they'll have two machines. If I had only the PS4 and I could choose to get a new machine and it would be either the Xbox One or the Switch. Well, we had just talked about earlier on the show that the Xbox One's entire library is becoming a subset of the PS4 library. So why would I buy that if I had a PS4? I would buy the Switch instead because it's an entirely different library. And much more importantly, it does something different mechanically than the PS4 does. So that would be my second machine.
To me also, it's about buying what your friends like. Also, yeah. I think your peer group has a lot to do with which console you end up with.
Oh, for sure.
Certainly in PS4's case, I think that helped them a whole lot. And if people are going to have a good experience with the Switch, that's going to help. And I think with Nintendo spreading out the launch games, maintain a nice steady cadence where people aren't going to, after launch, once they're done with Zelda, throw this thing in a drawer and never touch it again, which I think what happened to a lot of people with the Wii U. They played the launch games, which we had, a new Super Mario Brothers game was like their big no 3D Mario. Zelda wasn't on anyone's horizon, and they forgot about the Wii U by the time the next games came out. If Nintendo's able to fight against that this time, great.
I still say though, and it's a scary thought, is that Nintendo is in the position that Sega was in at the end of the 90s. They're not in the financial dire straits Sega was in, but they're supporting their hardware largely by themselves.
Well, I think they're also sustainable.
But they've done that before. They've been doing that. They did that for
N64. N64, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they've seen a steady decline. There was that huge bump with the Wii at the beginning of the Wii's life cycle, but in general, they've been in a steady decline the whole time.
Well, I think the other thing they have to fight against is the perception that software, the value of software has declined so much that people aren't willing to spend $50, $60 on a game anymore. Like, I heard a lot of people talking about how 1-2 Switch should be a download for $10 or $19. Maybe that's true. Maybe that should be. But I think Nintendo values their software more than that.
Well, and It is interesting because the standard price for many years of handheld games has been $40, right? For 3DS, it's a $40 game, even if it's AAA. So now, of course, people are looking at the Switch principally as a set top, as a console machine, and that allows them to get away with a $60 price point. But if you do end up using this more as a handheld than as a console experience, then they've just bumped the price up from $40 to $60.
Good point.
True.
Although they have also, I think they've, I think it was an interview that Chris Kohler did with Reggie where he said that they've got big plans for the 3DS still. It doesn't sound like the 3DS is going anywhere for quite a while.
I think that is also very much marketing speak. Remember that the DS was the third pillar as well.
Well, it was the third pillar,
but also
that was at launch. It's gone on to become it went on to become a very successful console. It was third pillar at the time because they had no faith in it.
But, right. That's what I'm saying.
The 3DS is still doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there's marketing speak to consider. It'll be interesting to see if they do support it heavily. I don't think they're going to drop it like a rock the way Xbox. The original Xbox was dropped right after 360 came out or anything.
No.
But,
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about peripheral pricing real quick here. The Switch Pro controller. $69.99. It's quite expensive.
You know what's terrible?
But it does.
And I know. Sorry,
I
know that just before we go any further here, I know that people in the chat are saying that Nintendo obviously is not responsible for the Canadian dollar's value, and yeah, I absolutely agree with that. But you can't use that as a reason to say, well, that makes the price all right. Just and all these prices,
right?
Yeah. So the Pro controller here, $90.
Oh shit!
I think that's killing me about the Pro controller is Virtual Console.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The only way to get a D-pad.
Yeah, that's what's killing me. And because I am a big fan of Virtual Console, I'm a big fan of playing my retro games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big sucker for paying to play retro games over and over again. But I really don't want to spend $70 to get a D-pad.
Incidentally, I'm surprised we didn't hear
until they make a Joy-Con L that has the D-pad, which is very possible for them to do.
Yeah, but
I'm shocked that we didn't hear more about their Virtual Console plans, because when you have such an anemic launch lineup, that would have helped a lot in terms of just giving you the comfort of saying, oh, but there's going to be a bunch of legacy games.
Reggie made it sound in that Chris Kohler interview. Reggie made it sound like they're going to be talking about that over the next few weeks.
Okay, they didn't even show Mario Kart 8 during their presentation. They didn't show Bomberman R in their presentation. Like the whole presentation was screwed up. Like that was a bad presentation.
It's also, Ethan, it's very sweet that you think that there would suddenly be a bunch of Virtual Console games at launch, because you know how Nintendo drips those out.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Their whole monthly free game plan is just ridiculous.
Guys will get Mario World, and you will get NES Tennis, and you will like it.
Yeah. So Switch Pro controller. Let's just talk about this real quick. It does include motion control. So I don't know if you saw any of the videos of Splatoon over the weekend showing off that you can still gyro aim, which is great because I used that all the time.
Weird.
It includes HD Rumble. It has the Amiibo reader writer, the NFC reader writer in the right side.
Yeah,
and so that's why it's $70.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. The price again is the same as the Switch itself. The price absolutely makes sense when you break down what's in these things.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like it's
Joy-Con controllers, an extra pair, $80.
$100 here.
Oof.
Yeah. Joy-Con, either the left or the right, by itself, $50.
$65.
They are selling a Joy-Con charging grip for $29.99.
$40.
This is different than the one that comes in the package. So the one that comes in the box with the Switch does not also charge the Joy-Cons at the same time, but the Joy-Cons have a 20-hour battery life.
Whoa, we'll back up. I didn't know that. What did you just say?
So the Joy-Con grip that comes with the Switch does not also charge the Joy-Con.
It's just a plastic shell.
That's dumb.
But you can get the charging grip if you care about that for $29.99. And the Joy-Cons themselves, of course, charge when they're on the main unit.
Yeah.
But they also have a 20-hour battery life.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the battery life on
fine.
those things sounds great. It's not like you're going to need to charge it every 5 minutes or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Look at it this way. Sorry, but the thing that really excites me is that when I'm on a plane trip, after my Switch has died after 2.5 hours, my controller is going to work for another 18.
Yeah. So perfect.
That's the thing you care about. Yeah.
Now, if the Joy-Cons can charge when they're hooked up to the screen, will that work the other way where the screen can start
They can sucking
power from the Joy-Cons to keep it working for a little longer?
I hope so.
But the thing is the battery life. Of course, we wish it was longer, but this doesn't surprise anyone, does it? And it's not.
It does. 3 hours for Zelda?
Well, yeah, but I mean, how many instances do you see yourself playing for 3 hours in one sitting? I mean, there will be times, but that's not the usual use case.
As an example, the Switch comes out the week that I will be in San Francisco for GDC.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I grab it there. I've got a 6-hour flight back home. I totally see myself sitting there for more than 3 hours playing Zelda.
Well, guess what?
The day I get it,
you'll be able to play Zelda.
Yeah.
What you got to do then is
and again,
get yourself a USB-C cable and either an external battery that you can also use with your phone, or a lot of airlines now have the USB charging plug in the seat.
That's fair.
So,
I'm just saying,
battery life, which is a lot better than Nintendo using a proprietary plug like the one they have been using for the DS and 3DS.
Absolutely.
Well, and the other thing that is,
I want to get through these prices real quick.
Oh, okay. Can I just say one of the
dock set is $89.99 MSRP, and they're also selling Joy-Con wheels, a set of 2 for $14.99.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Ethan?
I was just going to say that the other thing that's really nice is that because you are plugging the thing into its dock when you get home, organically it's going to be fully charged every morning. It's, you don't have to
if you remember
yourself. Yeah, but I think
if you remember to plug it in.
That's true, but I think that the design of the device strongly encourages that, and you're prone to do that.
You're right. Battery life, 2.5 to 6.5 hours, depending on the application that's being run. They said that typically for Breath of the Wild, that's 3 hours. So that is in line, by the way.
So is this
with battery life. Yeah, battery life on the PlayStation Vita, the Nintendo DS, the Nintendo 3DS at launch. All those systems had between 3 and 5 hours of battery. So. Those, and of course it can be charged up with a USB-C cable, so that's a little bit better. It has 32 gigabytes of internal memory.
That's nuts.
It's expandable with micro SD-C cards, and right now you can get up to 256 gigabytes, but it's kind of expensive. But the spec itself for micro SD supports up to 2 terabytes. So eventually.
Yeah, but I mean, when we're talking about
those cards,
when we're talking about costs, I mean, there's another one of those hidden costs, and it's the same thing we all complain about with the Vita. Now they're not doing what Sony did with their insane proprietary memory cards,
which means it's so not the same as the Sony.
It is so absolutely the same. They skimped on the internal memory, and now you have to go buy something else day one.
Yes,
day one.
But with the Vita, how big of a card did they include with the Vita? It was like a 40 card.
I'm the first one to complain that the Vita didn't have enough onboard memory either. I just said that.
Sure. I'd say that too, but what I'm saying is that they did proprietary memory that was outlandishly expensive, right?
Sure.
So a 64 gigabyte card is $120, which is ridiculous.
People have sat on this show, the hosts of this show have sat here and gone on about how great it is that we can download our portable games digitally so that when we travel, we don't have a million little cartridges to carry with us. That is a problem. Yeah. That's a problem with 32 gigs of onboard memory, especially when you say that they've come out and said, what, Zelda's 12? I mean, you're using mostly half of your memory right there.
Right. And Greg, the other challenge, of course, is the fact that a lot of these probably ultimately will have day one patches, things like that, which will eat up a lot of the memory.
Sure.
So it is a hidden cost. I'm sorry, it is.
It's a hidden cost. I'm just saying it's not as egregious as then having to pay a massive premium because it's proprietary.
Sure, which is what I just said.
I absolutely agree.
We're agreeing.
You have So 32 gigs of memory is definitely short. You can get like a 128 card for like $40.
And
so it's not
just throwing it out there
that not that bad.
That $80 or $90 cheaper Xbox One that comes with a free game also comes with 500 gigabytes of storage.
Well, what I'm trying to
you're right.
And an external hard drive ability, but yeah.
What I'm trying to figure out now is, since we're getting 2 at launch, again, I have a third as a just in case backup pre-ordered, but getting the 2, if I buy Breath of the Wild digitally, is that something that I can have on my device and my daughter can have on hers because they both have the same account, right? And can we play at the same time? Or am I going to be in a position where whenever a major new title comes out, I have to buy 2 copies?
That's a good question. Yeah.
That's a great question. I hope they answer that before launch, because that would be fantastic to know.
One thing I did want to say too, when we were talking about the docks, and we didn't really go back to this yet, but I will say that I do love the design of this thing, in that, if I have, I don't personally have this, but like if you have a place where you have a main television in, like, say, your living room, and then you have one in a den or a game room or something like that, that you literally just have to have another dock sitting there.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah, I really, really dig that.
I will say that that's one of the big bonuses of my getting one for my daughter as well, as it means we have 2 docks in the house.
Yeah, for sure.
So they said a little bit about region locking, that this is going to be a region-free console.
Awesome.
Mostly. They said mostly region-free, which...
What does that mean?
Who knows what that means? I guess we'll find out.
It means that third parties can lock it if they want to.
Exactly right.
Yep.
There you go.
Square Enix, I'm looking directly at you.
Yep.
Probably.
But the good news of this is that Namco has already said that there's going to be a Taiko no Tatsujin game on Switch.
Nice.
Interesting.
With using the Joy-Cons?
You'll be able to import it.
And the odds of that coming out here probably pretty slim to it's not going to happen.
Well,
so,
and actually,
they probably use those Joy-Cons, huh?
Mm.
So,
What's that?
Because that'll use the Joy-Cons.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good point, though, because a lot of the titles that are kind of quirky and cool in Japanese won't come out here. And because it's a system that will probably be more popular in Japan than the US, they'll probably see more titles overall. So it's nice that we'll have access to those.
Yeah.
Online
service. So they are going the way of Xbox Live and PSN, and they're going to charge a subscription fee, although we get a free period from launch till sometime in the fall.
Further proving your soft launch theory.
Yeah, exactly.
Which definitely feels like everything here is a soft launch. And the way that they're going to do it is a lot of your online games or managing friends or messaging friends, that's going to be handled in a separate application on your smartphone instead of directly on machine, which is weird. It's a very weird way to do it. The more I thought about it over the weekend, so I don't know if you guys use or have heard of Discord.
Oh yeah, all the time.
But a lot of people use Discord for similar purposes, to chat online. I wonder if it's going to be some kind of take on that, where and it does make some bit of sense too, I guess, if you're playing an online game of Mario Kart and you want to quickly invite a friend to use your smartphone to do it instead of having to exit a game or go out to a menu on the console itself. It makes a little bit of sense. I want to see how everything is implemented. This doesn't scare me, really. I mean, let's find out all the details yet. I mean, obviously Nintendo is very late to the online game in general, so who knows if this will be any good, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
Well, the thing that still is strange to me is this whole idea of they give you a free NES or SNES game every month, but then you can't use it anymore after the 30 days.
Well, unless you buy it.
Well,
unless you buy
it. Right, but that seems miserly.
And Nintendo.
It is miserly. It's Nintendo.
By the way,
Nintendo being a little bit tone deaf.
Did you see Frank Cifaldi on Twitter mentioned a possible positive of this system, which is, okay, so they are offering you an NES or Super NES game free for a month period, and it'll have online play enabled as well. So you'll be able to play the game online with people. It basically means that everybody who is subscribed will have the same game for that month and could very easily schedule
That's not wrong.
online play session.
That's not wrong.
But am I understanding
it's an interesting angle on it. I don't know about that, but I thought it was an interesting angle that, okay, so everybody's going to have the same game. You're not going to get into a situation where now, anyway, games with gold and PSN, oftentimes I'm just downloading whatever the free game is, never touching it.
That's true.
So
I think really what this all points to is they kind of did some of the things we were hoping for, but this is where I say this is Nintendo, and nobody expected them to do this right. And that's exactly what we're getting.
It's a very soft launch, minimum viable announcement that they could have possibly
viable announcement. That's good. I got to remember that.
And then of course they didn't talk about this in the presentation, but it was up on the website afterwards. They have a parental controls application as well. This is pretty interesting, where you can set play limits and actually suspend the system that your kid is playing. So I guess if they go over, it won't actually cut them off at that time. They'll basically give them the benefit of the doubt, so that when the system has told them to shut it off, that they actually will do that instead of having to be forced off by a parent.
It'll track if they don't. So the parents
tracks if they don't
report.
No, I'm a big fan of that for sure.
Big fan of that. Yeah,
I would have loved to hear more. Going back to what Ethan said too, I'd love to hear more about what the account system is. Actually, what I'd really love to get is somebody breaking down the OS, because obviously we didn't see any of that. But yeah, like I would love to. I hope that extends to a situation where, like, if my son wants to play Zelda, he can sign in to his own account on my system, and I still get a lot of visibility into what he's doing and, you know, where he's going. And also, we don't know anything about any other outside of gaming apps on this thing. So, you know, there might be some of that as well.
We don't.
Well, and also, I frankly hope that we do get a lot more Wii U ports in the first year, just to help, fill the gaps. Because think of it this way: the Wii U first-party games almost never lose their value. So you could probably get like $30 to $35 store credit for Smash Brothers, right? So if you could trade in your old one and then just get the new, Switch one that you now have on the go, I would do that all day long. I'd love that.
Speaking of Smash Brothers, that was conspicuously absent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there were a lot of rumors that this announcement was going to include a lot of Wii U games. But I actually think, so they did Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think we'll probably hear more about Wii U games being brought over to Switch later. But if they had done too many of them, then you run the risk. If they'd done too many of them in this announcement, then they would have run the risk of, it's just serving up warmed over Wii U games. This is terrible.
Do you figure
you're already getting that? So
do you figure brand new Smash Brothers might be one of the cornerstone games at E3? It seems like
I think be surprised at all.
Yeah. It was in the leaks. For months that there was a Smash Brothers game with the amiibos and characters that were missing. I guess there are a couple that they just haven't put in yet that they had already announced. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. I mean, Smash Brothers is a big draw for people. So
I'm and talking about Mario Kart real quick. What I've heard so far, I'm really bummed about it, to be honest. It sounds great again for people who don't own it on the Wii U, sure, but adding the battle mode and some extra characters was way less than I was hoping for.
Well, but then again, as I said,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you trade in your Wii U game, you're gonna get it for like $25, right?
Yeah, sure, I get it. I'm still. I was a little underwhelmed with that, because that was one of the other games that I kind of was like, okay, I hope they give me some information on this, and I hope, like I say, even if there was another new set of tracks or something, I would have been all in 100%.
Well, they haven't. I honestly think like this presentation was very light on game details for anything outside of launch.
True.
I mean, they had battle mode running and these hands-on events, But like other than very light demos of ARMS and Splatoon and Mario Kart, like not a whole lot of details came out about those games. And we can switch over now to the talking about the game lineup. Here, I gotta do the snap.
Yeah, my snap is terrible.
My snap's terrible too. Splatoon 2 looks
gorgeous.
amazing to me.
Yeah.
But man, did that get downplayed by a lot of people on podcasts and videos like, oh, it just looks like Splatoon. It's like, well, if you didn't play Splatoon, you don't really see the differences. There were a lot of people who didn't even realize that the stages they were showing were new.
Yeah.
Any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, all the content they were showing was a lot of new stuff. So that was very exciting to me.
For what it's worth, and that game wasn't a selling point to me, but I showed my son bits and pieces of the launch thing today, and that and ARMS were the two games that he's like, oh my god, we got to get a Switch, we got to get it so bad.
ARMS looks great, and Splatoon is my Overwatch. I just think it's more fun. I understand why people think otherwise, but I love Splatoon, and it's just something that I could spend tons of time.
Yeah. I showed my daughter the ARMS trailer, and she loved it. She wanted to watch it again.
Yeah,
I gotta say, ARMS
does look the same way.
ARMS does look pretty fun.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Looks like another really fun multiplayer game like Splatoon.
But again, not to keep being negative about this, but if I get that, I'm going to want to play multiplayer, which is another $100. So that plus the game, now we're talking at least $200 because the game here will be at least $70.
Yeah,
and
and
here's the thing about that. So they did confirm that ARMS can be played with without motion. So you can play it on a Pro Controller. Play it with I believe you can play with Joy-Cons.
Well, that's
without.
You can play with just two Joy-Cons? 2 players with just 2 Joy-Cons? Can you do that? Did they say?
I don't know about that, but you can definitely play it without motion controls.
So, but if it still requires a Pro controller, then you're still talking an extra cost there, but it's a little bit less, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, it looks fun. Yes, absolutely looks fun. It's a game that I wasn't totally crazy when I saw it, but my son got really excited about when he saw the video.
Yeah, to me, a lot of the games I got excited about during the Treehouse stream. So they showed off 1-2 Switch.
Yeah.
And I thought it looked really, really fun on the Treehouse stream. To me, it seems like they have taken the concept of Johann Sebastian Joust and just run with it and made games that you don't need to look at a screen for.
And I mean, leave it to Nintendo, right? And if anyone was going to do something like that, they would, and they'll do it right.
And so, just real quick, I'm excited.
4 or 5 of those games, and they apparently have more in the works. Like I can't imagine. I think 1-2 Switch is like $50 product, and have those 4 games in there. I want to see what else is in 1-2 Switch before I decide whether I'm actually going to buy it. But it does seem fun.
It does. The only thing, though, is it seems fun exclusively as a multiplayer experience, whereas you look at something like Wii Sports, and actually I spent a lot of time solo doing bowling and tennis and stuff like that. It was at its it was at its best multiplayer with
sad, lonely story.
But you never played that single player? I mean, because I just wouldn't play 1-2 Switch single player. That's my point.
I'll be honest, I didn't play much of Wii Sports at all. But
okay.
Yeah.
I played Wii Sports last weekend. Played some bowling.
Wow.
Cool.
Yes, so 1-2 Switch, ARMS, Snipper Clips, which is another game
about this one.
Yeah.
Snipper Clips on the Treehouse stream. I didn't really get what it was when we were looking at it at the presentation. I don't even think they really said anything about it. But it's basically like 2 players can play, and you're these little sheets of construction paper, and you're trying to clip the other player into a pattern so that you both get with these dotted lines, or you want to like push something up through a little maze, or saw one where one player clipped the other player into what looked like a hook, and then they jumped on these balloons and brought them down for the other player to then pop. Like a lot of really interesting gameplay possibilities here. It can be played Switch and the 2 Joy-Cons, and I thought it looked great on the Treehouse stream.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. It's 1 to 4 players, so there's a lot of flexibility there too.
I realized that. Cool. Then we have a couple of other announcements. Ultra Street Fighter 2, the Final Challengers, which looks like a version of the Hyper Fighting HD game that we got a couple years ago on 360. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but they showed that off. Like it looks like it. You can play with the classic pixel graphics too. Super Bomberman R, which, and I'm not. The impressions on Super Bomberman R have been kind of mixed.
Really?
So, yeah. I heard mixed things about it.
Wasn't there something about like it uses in-game currency to continue and things like that?
Oh god.
Yeah, there's a lot of player customization that uses some kind of currency, and there was a thought like, I hope they're not charging for that currency after they charge $50 for the game.
It's spend capped.
Wait, it's $50?
It's a full-priced game.
Is it really?
I'm assuming.
Well, we have to assume that on everything at this point, don't we?
Yeah.
No, I would imagine that they have some tiers in pricing, and that digital is not always going to be at the very top of that.
No, but what I'm saying is until we hear
game.
differently, you kind of have to assume that it's going to be full price.
Bomberman R is a retail game also, so I think
okay.
Assume full price on that. Then you got Has Been Heroes from Frozen Byte, the Trine people.
And what is that? Oh, Trine. Okay.
Which looks kind of interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Must buy.
I am getting that.
Looks good.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Rayman Legends Definitive Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
It's a good game.
I'm sure it's good.
It's a great game.
There's different options to play it already, though,
I've
right?
literally gotten it on 3 different devices already.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was a free PS Plus game.
Well, yeah, it was free on Xbox actually, and then I did get the Wii one, and I got the Vita one as well. So I don't need that one again.
Yeah, and then EA announced FIFA. We've got NBA 2K 17 coming, and
is the NBA 2K 17 officially announced though? Because I haven't seen it announced anywhere.
Yeah, they announced it. Yes.
Somebody in the chat earlier mentioned that FIFA is going to be based on the PS3 version. Is that true?
What?
That was a rumor that they were basically taking the code base from PS3 360 and porting it over. And then Peter Moore did he tweeted somebody and said, no, it's a ground up rebuild.
Really?
FIFA
I would
Switch.
much more believe the PS3 code base thing.
I believe that too.
They've done that before. They've done that for years, actually.
You're kind of an expert on that too.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked on Madden for the Wii, that was the PS2 code base. So
it makes sense. Also, just because you start there doesn't mean that you're not going to optimize for the device.
Yeah, I mean, if you play that game, it doesn't, it's not exactly the PlayStation 2 game. The code base does not mean that's the same game.
Right. Also, I misspoke. I misspoke. It's NBA 2K18, not 17.
Okay.
The other thing is that Minecraft is going to be on Switch.
That's good.
Brilliant.
And
I thought was actually a huge announcement that they did not say anything about during the presentation.
Yeah.
Again,
we've got probably the biggest game series in the world coming to the system, and it's only in the montage, and you say nothing about it.
And that should also be a launch title. I mean, that would be a big deal.
Oh my God. Yes, for sure. A version of Minecraft that you can just put on the television or carry with you, play whenever. That is huge.
My daughter's on her laptop right now playing that game. So
if we get a Switch and that price it's priced reasonably, I know I'll end up buying a copy, not for me, but for my kids. My kids will go nuts over it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a $50 game.
Probably.
I think I saw it on, and I'm looking right now just to double check, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on Amazon. Oh, I'm sorry, $60.
So we are getting Skylanders at launch.
Yep.
Yes, which is another one I heard wasn't running too well on the Switch.
Finn just got that for Christmas.
It does have an interesting feature. You can scan in your amiibos and they stay resident with the system instead of having to scan them in each time. So that if you are bringing the game portably, you don't have to bring all your Skylanders with you.
You said amiibos, but I mean, and I know they did have a couple of amiibos, but yeah, you're talking about The actual Skylanders got it.
That's
Right.
the way the 3DS Skylanders games work, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that.
Yep.
All right. So we put out a call on Facebook and Twitter for people to write in some of their thoughts on the Switch announcement. So I'm gonna read some of these. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. Hacker alias. Well, I should just say listener Michael says instead of hacker alias says, what kind of in-game use do you predict the touchscreen capabilities of the Switch will be used for? I ask this because my TV is not a touchscreen, and the last I checked, my local electronics store had no touchscreen capable televisions. Surely it won't be limited to menu navigation, but having a whole gameplay mechanic that can only use half time, less than that for me, would deter developers from utilizing it. That being said, I would rather have a good-looking dumb screen and have a few bucks knocked off the retail price.
I feel like there's a whole element of this console that we haven't been told about yet. And I really think that's going to be some sort of app, like set of apps. And that's where that touchscreen is going to come into play.
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely would come into play. For instance, on the Treehouse stream, I think they were showing, or maybe it was Game Explain that I was watching, where you start riding a horse in Zelda Breath of the Wild, and you can tame a horse like any horse you jump on, and then ride it to a stable and name it and keep it at stables around the map. So they were using a keyboard input. Looked like a touch keyboard came up. So I would only imagine that.
Yeah. So it simplifies some actions then that otherwise would be used with a controller. That's the only possible way they could use it in gameplay, isn't it? Really?
The big question.
And also, I mean, they want you to be able to use this thing both and undocked. I don't think they can make a game that is primarily a touch game without breaking that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's going to be really interesting to me is to see how they handle the inevitable Switch version of Super Mario Maker, because that one will always feel better with touch. And so are they going to make it so that you can use touch when you're in tablet mode, but you can just do the same things with a physical controller when you are docked? It'll be interesting to see.
I would expect it to.
That seems to be like that.
Exactly.
I would be shocked if they release games that you have to use touch for. Yeah. It would need to be both.
Yeah. All right. Listener Anthony says, I pre-ordered it, but I only see a few purchases this year. Zelda, Splatoon, and Mario later this year. I know it isn't competing with Sony and Microsoft. I don't understand the market they are after. NVIDIA Shield, Vita, can it continue like this? Once the hardcore gamers buy this in the next 6 months, then what? The casual market has a smartphone or a tablet. The kids are playing what the others are, schoolyard gamers.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I see them trying to carve out their own slice of the market here, and it might work. I'm curious how long it'll work for, but absolutely. And I got to be honest, I do see this competing with the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Well, again, for me, I think what they're doing, and I think players are really going to love this. They are really pushing and aiming to introduce this whole idea of the AAA console untethered experience. And yes, Greg, I know that there's been the Turbo Express and the Nomad, but really this is, at least in terms of our current generation, a really exciting and impactful thing. I'm right now playing Final Fantasy X on my Vita and on my PS4, and it has cross save, so I can just go back between the two. And just this weekend, during Saturday and today, I've gotten maybe 2 hours each day during the day on my Vita. And last night I was able to play for another 2 hours on my PS4. And having that flexibility is just awesome. And so I think that once people have access to that, it's going to be just something that is fundamentally different as an experience than what PS4 and Xbox One can offer. And to me, it's so appealing that once the Switch comes out, I think I will very likely be spending the majority of my time on either Switch or on the cross-save Vita to PS4 thing, because I just love that convenience and flexibility.
However,
and that's the audience.
They've had cross-save, they've had remote play, we've had permutations of this in the past. To me, this is the best implementation of this. But honestly, and I'm like you. This is a huge benefit to me as a gamer. It's the way I want to be able to play these games. But to me, it's a completely unproven concept to the 90% of the market that so far has not really been swayed by that.
I think that on top of all that, whether it's proven or I think the key thing is that it hasn't been proven to be the selling point that. I mean, I know it's a selling point to us in various degrees. It's not as big a selling point to me as it is to you guys, as to you, Ethan, especially. But I understand why it's a selling point for you. I think it's going to be interesting to see if that convenience is as big a deal to the market at large. I tend to think it's not, but I don't know.
Imagine though, I mean,
this 30 years ago.
This thing comes out a week before PAX East. Walking through the halls of PAX East, if I don't see people playing 1-2 Switch all over the place and people playing impromptu games, all over, then it'll be a failure. Like, really,
I'm just saying.
I want to see if that turns out correct. If people are really into it or not.
And I'm just saying that again. I fully anticipate that 3-4 months after the machine is out, the idea of going back to being tethered to your living room to have to play all the games you want to play is going to feel painful, because the freedom of being able to do it wherever you are. Again, I got a half hour of time on Final Fantasy X today when Ali had a swim lesson, right? That's great. That's fantastic. We went, grabbed a little Starbucks after that. He had a little hot chocolate. He was playing Mario on my phone. I was playing a little more Final Fantasy. And again, all of this adds up to actually being able to play the way I used to be able to play when I didn't have a wife and kids and, a job.
Well, speaking of that, too, you could go to Starbucks. You could go to Starbucks after practice or whatnot and play Mario Kart with your son at the Starbucks.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. Like, pretty interesting. And I wonder how realistic that is. That this will happen. But I guess
I'm curious. One of the other things I'd love to hear about too, just sort of related, is because you can hook up to 8 switches.
Yeah,
wirelessly, and it doesn't have to be over Wi-Fi, is what I was gathering from that.
Well, they connect via Wi-Fi to themselves. But
okay, but you don't need to be on the same Wi-Fi network or something, right? They connect directly to one another.
It sounded that way.
Anyway, I'm curious if they'll have any kind of situation like they've done before with the 3DS, where only one person needs the game.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah,
that'd be very cool.
Yeah.
All right, listener Andrew says that he's still gonna get it. I never got the Wii U. Never had a new Zelda or Mario game. I love the idea of being able to play off the TV with little kids. Vita doesn't do it for me. The screen's too small. He needs his reading glasses to see the screen for remote play. Not to mention the lack of a second set of shoulder buttons on the Vita.
Oh, yeah.
If From Software had announced anything for launch, it would have been a definite first-day purchase. Now I'll just wait until the holidays and pick it up with Mario Odyssey.
It's funny
because From Software, because that was another rumor that they were going to do a Dark Souls package collection for the Switch, and that
it's funny because how many times over the last week have you read somebody saying exactly that? Was kind of underwhelmed by what they showed, pre-ordered it anyway. I mean, speaking for us sitting on Back in My Play the other night, that's exactly what Kevin Larrabee did. Exactly what Kevin Larrabee did. And also talking about the size of the screen, that's interesting too. I mean, we've heard about the dimensions, we've seen it. I have to be honest, I was not prepared for exactly how tiny those Joy-Cons look.
Yeah.
And I am concerned. I think that the straps that add the extra height to the Joy-Con for the shoulder buttons are a brilliant idea, because it feels like those things might not be the most comfortable controllers in the world to use. Having never held one, I don't know for sure, but just thinking back to I'm thinking even like the DSi, I always found after a while you'd sort of get hands cramping up a little bit on that thing. So be interesting to see how that goes.
So another thing also, the size of the device, again, that is the one thing I'm personally most concerned about, just because, again, it's not pocketable. It's not something that I can easily put in my pocket, so it has to go in my bag, which I carry my bags around a lot, but it's not with me everywhere, and I'd like to have this device with me everywhere. It almost makes me think that if the Switch was the type of thing that women would love even more than men, that would almost be a benefit, because women tend to have purses, But I'm literally considering, like, should I get a satchel bag or a man purse, basically, so that I can just more comfortably have this thing with me. Because I do want it everywhere, because I love doing it with a Vita.
I believe what I'm hearing is a Switch branded fanny pack for you, Ethan.
Yeah.
I feel like that's your future. But it's funny because I think it's so funny because you're coming at it from, is it a portable enough standpoint? And my concern is kind of the other way, is that I was actually surprised at how small it looks. I kind of expected it to be a little bit bigger than that. But, again, having not actually held one in my hands, I don't know if that's enough or not enough.
It's apparently heavier also than the Wii U controller.
Really?
That makes sense. I mean, the Wii U controller was pretty much a dumb terminal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hackeralius Thorbon 3 says, how long until articles about selling a cheaper screenless Switch come out?
Already
Never
heard about
happen.
it. Already seen people writing about that, but yeah, I think it would be crazy to do something like that. It's just as crazy as it would have been for them to release a screenless controller version of the Wii U. Wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or of the Vita, which they did do and did not perform very well.
Amen.
Well, there you go. I think that's the proof that they wouldn't want to do it.
Right.
Like take out the unique selling point of the Switch.
Yeah.
It would be, they'd have to come up with a different word for it than Switch, because you're not switching PlayStations at that point.
The Nintendo stay.
Nintendo stay.
The Nintendo status quo.
Well, so and a quick question for you guys. I know none of you guys are reliant right now on like public transportation, but if theoretically you were, like Phil, if you were going to the city every day, would you throw this in your backpack, or do you think that would just be too much to carry around?
I probably would, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would.
I definitely would.
If I lived in
No question
cities
about
as
it.
big as the cities you guys live in, and I had to take public transit, like a train or something, I would definitely be carrying this around with me. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd really want to carry it around with me just to get all the cool street passes.
Guess what?
Maybe you didn't watch on Thursday night, so maybe you don't know
What?
about this.
What?
You're
What
gonna
are
have
you
to spend
tell
your
me?
time in Miiverse because they don't have Street Pass.
Oh, but no street.
Oh,
No
well,
Street
at
Pass,
least-
no Miiverse.
At least I can. Yeah, I can do the meet. Wait, what?
Yeah.
That was dumb of them. By the
But
way.
actually,
the capture
I
button-
heard that
the
they bought
capture
Nier
button-
from Sony.
The capture button will post screens to social media, though. So,
But not video.
but not video.
not
Although
video,
did
yeah.
they say
Well,
video?
It's
coming
clear why
later.
they can't share video. They don't have any space. They don't have any storage to save any video on there anyway.
Oh, zing.
Ouch.
Oh,
Zing,
wait,
zing,
you
zing.
have half a game installed? Sorry, you can't take a screenshot right now.
All right, Hacker Alias Mr. Bossman says 2.5 hours on a charge and Zelda taking up half the hard drive, and a paid online subscription services worry me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Complaining about the battery life
those
on the
are,
thing.
those are all legitimate worries, I'd say.
Yep.
We don't really know a whole lot about the online service. I mean, we're gonna get a free trial. Let's see what happens, and see how much it is per month.
Yep.
Do you foresee now? They haven't announced a price for months.
No.
Do you foresee them changing their plans at all based on the trial period, or do you think that like what
They
they've come out
barely
and said a
said
lot?
anything. They barely said anything about what
Well,
they're
they
going to be
have.
doing during the
Yeah, they
trial
have.
period.
They've come out and said a lot of things about it. There's I saw some kind of chart being shown around at one point, what they were doing and not doing with when you paid for online play.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious if that'll change.
But maybe. Who knows? Well, they'll give you 2 virtual console games instead of 1.
Jesus.
All right, Hacker Alias Legend Whizball says there hasn't been much on Wii U as everything was being moved to Switch. So where are the games, and who asked for motion controls? This is actually something I heard a lot of over the weekend, like people complaining about them bringing back motion controls. But honestly, like there were a lot of motion control games on the Wii U, so
were there?
Yeah, Nintendo Land has a bunch. There was Wii Sports Club.
Splatoon actually is motion control.
Yeah, that's true.
Star Fox. Yeah. Like there were a lot of motion games. So it's not necessarily the return of motion control; it's a continuation of
maybe those people just weren't playing Wii U games, so it felt like I got to be honest, because it felt the same way to me. But now that you're saying that, yeah, you're right. Motion controls never really went away. It's just that maybe a lot of people haven't dealt with it in quite a while.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, if you played Game and Wario or the other mini game collection that I can't remember right now. the board
Clearly
game style game. There are a lot of motion games in there too. Anyway, Hacker Alias Max Castillo says, will you also be getting a carrying case for it? I worry about throwing that screen into a bag as is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Zelda special editions and master editions have that. It's a very pretty case too. It looks pretty much like something you get. Like it looks almost exactly like my 3DS case, to be honest. But
and I probably will go against the grain on this and that. I just want to make sure that it's as accessible as possible. I find when I put something in a case that I use it less. So I have my Vita case, for instance, and having done away with that, I find that I just can pull it out of my pocket and use it a lot more readily. And so I probably will go without.
But you're yeah, I can see what you're saying, but you keep your Vita in your pocket.
Yeah.
Do you feel like where you're going to have this thing in a backpack or something that you've got to sort of go into anyway, that wouldn't sort of negate that?
I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm literally trying to figure out, like, are my pockets in my jacket large enough to still allow me to carry this thing that way? And if I can, I will.
I doubt it.
We'll see.
I feel like there'll be multiple steps no matter what while you're carrying it, because this thing's going to need the Joy-Cons attached. That's the other thing I'm kind of curious about. I'd love to hear, and it's also going to be interesting to see over the next year or two, is how solid the connection is between the Joy-Cons and the, and I know on the Treehouse stream they actually talked about that a little bit, and they said that it feels really, really solid. But I'm curious, after wear and tear, is it going to get a little bit loose? Are they going to be like, and then that would be the thing that would worry me about keeping it in a jacket pocket or something, is that you're sort of straining those joints a little bit.
Oh, maybe.
Will you be hurting it, right?
Yeah.
So what I was going to get at is, I think either way, you're in that situation, you're always going to have at least a second step to play the thing, which is you take that out and then you click the Joy-Cons into it, or pull them out and play as well.
Yeah, that may be. What I'm hoping is that I can just permanently keep the Joy-Cons on,
right,
and have my Pro controller. And so whenever I dock, I just don't take the Joy-Cons off. It's just, always there.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you guys think is the over-under on Ethan sewing a pocket on the inside of his jacket?
I hope when I see you next month that has happened.
Accommodate, yeah.
And I am Instagramming the shit out of that.
The funny thing is, as Phil said that, I was thinking I hadn't even considered that. That's an interesting idea.
Now the idea is in his head.
Do you know how to sew, Ethan? Does your wife know how to sew?
Because she would not do that for me. No, she would not.
Ethan's doing that by himself. This is gonna be home ec 101. That's what it's gonna look like.
That could be your birthday present.
Stitched with yarn. Just right through the whole jacket, so you can see where the pocket is on the breast.
You know what it's going to be? He's going to go out. He's going to buy a square of felt, and there's just going to be a line of staples on the outside of his jacket as he has gone around.
I'm not going to go that far, but it's not going to be in my pants pocket. I know that, and so it has to be somewhere in my jacket or somewhere in my bag.
All the extra room in Ethan's pants is taken up by his fat wallet.
Well, he's taking care of that in March as well. So
yeah, that's true. He's not going to have his wallet's going to be a lot lighter.
It's $1,000 worth of hardware.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, Hacker Alias, Rich Grisham.
Yeah,
says,
no, hold on a second here.
Yeah.
Greg mentions that. So your wife won't sew a pocket into a coat for you, but she'll let you spend $1,000 on Nintendo game systems in a month's time.
Yep. That's pretty much it.
Just
he
checking.
did build a PC and buy a Vive and get PSVR.
And a PSVR.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. That's true.
This is nothing
the
compared
fat
to that.
cash.
Hacker Alias Rich Grisham says, I'm in day one, got my pre-order in. My son and I are big Nintendo fans, and we're both excited. Thin launch lineup is concerning, though.
Yep.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's true.
Yep.
I'm sure we'll get a trickle of announcements leading up to E3, and I would hope in E3 we'll see what the back half of 2017 act looks like versus what we got.
Well, I think
Reggie has promised a trickle of announcements between now and launch. So
I think a fair way to put it though is that outside of the first, let's say, 3 weeks that it's out, where you're playing through Zelda, this machine, great as it is, absolutely cannot be your primary gaming device. Not for the first year.
No, but that's not the. I mean, that's the case with any new platform almost.
Yep.
Like
any
that's new platform, especially a portable. I mean, you don't assume that it's just going to be your main thing. So, Phil.
Yes.
So we get the presentation down. We've got 47-ish days until the launch lineup. How are you feeling about the Nintendo Switch?
I am. Well, I mentioned on Twitter before we recorded that I figured the enthusiasm level on this show would go from least to most. Greg, me, CJ, and then Ethan. And I think I think I'm about accurate on that.
Yeah,
I have I've pre-purchased one. If we want to be completely honest, I actually have 2 pre-ordered right now.
One for Dana?
No.
just covering the Nintendo spread.
I'm not nuts. Although she has mentioned potentially wanting one to play Zelda because she commutes into the city every day. So that would be a way for her to play. So who knows? Maybe we'll keep both of them pre-ordered. But no, one was pre-ordered at Best Buy, and then I have an Amazon pre-order just as kind of a backup.
Yep.
I'm the same. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know what? And we are not the only ones I've heard doing this sort of thing. So
Kevin Larrabee did the same thing the night of the presentation.
So Nintendo,
I have Best Buy and GameStop for me.
Nintendo is only going to be selling half as many Switches as they think they're going to sell because everyone will cancel their backup the night before. But it was when I pre-ordered it, it was very much kind of a okay, I guess I have to do this sort of thing. It was not a oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm so excited about this. It was just like, the main reason I pre-ordered it now is because I know I'm going to want to play Mario, and I would rather worry about getting the system now as opposed to getting it during the holiday season when it will probably be slightly more difficult. So that was my.
Yep. I pre-ordered 2 as well.
Yeah.
One. And one from Amazon. I thought so. I went to bed on Thursday night, and Amazon went up at like 3 a.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I might have been out of luck for Amazon after that, and then they went back up during the day on Friday. So and that seems to be the pattern now. Even over the weekend, they were going up and down on GameStop and Walmart.
Right.
So I think even if you didn't get a pre-order in now, you'll probably be able to get one in for launch. It does not appear at this time that it's as difficult to get one as the NES Classic was.
No.
Which is good.
No, not at all.
Or
They've
even,
also said that won't be the case.
or even the Wii, right? Because
Right.
people with pre-orders on the Wii, some of them didn't get them either. So that's good. But for you, what's the game you're excited about at launch, Phil? You're not a Zelda player, really, though.
What's that launch lineup looking like right now? No,
But remember, Just Dance 2017.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the main one. Just Dance. No, Zelda looks really good. I think Zelda's looking good. I wasn't a fan of Twilight Princess, and my lack of enthusiasm over Twilight Princess caused me to skip Skyward Sword. But
It's a shame.
It's a good game.
Is that right?
It is a good game.
Yeah.
With bad bookends of 3-hour blocks in the beginning and end.
Yeah, well, see, that's.
I wouldn't even go that far, to be honest, but
Yeah.
I just thought it was a good game. But you have to get past the whole idea of using motion controls to play it.
Really.
Oh, and the fetch
That's true.
fetch quests get obnoxious.
Yeah,
That's
see.
Zelda.
At the end, yeah.
But Breath of the Wild looks really nice. So I'm kind of I'm digging a chance on this one and hoping that it's more leaning towards the Wind Waker type of Zelda.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in gameplay, because I know this is going to play quite a bit differently, but just in terms of 3D Zeldas that I enjoy, as opposed to something like Twilight Princess. So I have that.
Okay.
I have that. I also have pre-ordered the Lego City Undercover.
When is that coming out?
Yes.
According to Amazon, and this may just be a temporary release date, but I believe it's scheduled for the end of April.
Oh,
which is
okay, cool.
Right around
It
the
was
same
supposed
time
to be
as
a
Mario
spring
Kart, too.
release.
Yeah.
I
I
have
did-
never played that game, so
It's a fantastic game. People ignore it because it was Wii U exclusive and had
It was
problems
not a
with load times.
fantastic game. Don't listen to them.
Don't listen to Greg.
Don't
because
listen to them.
it's-
oh,
it's a great-
I've been wanting to play it. The only reason I didn't get it is that it didn't have off-screen play. So now that's solved.
Now's your chance.
Yep.
Now's your chance. Yeah, don't listen to Greg. He I don't know why
He's a hater.
why he lacks heart. And
I did. So
a shred of
I listened to the
humanity.
Glixel podcast.
yeah,
Glixel podcast, and they were talking to the games coming up on Switch, and John Davison dismissed Lego City Undercover completely, even though he never bought you and never played Lego City Undercover. It's like that's one of the secret best Lego games because it's a Lego GTA basically, and it's pretty damn funny.
why'd he dismiss it?
I guess he just has no interest in it.
I think
I
in
think
general he was
he's-
dismissing upgraded ports from the Wii U. It sounds like because he dismissed Mario Kart 8 as well.
He just totally dismissed Mario Kart 8, but he
Okay.
did not own a Wii U. So yeah,
Well.
that podcast, by the way, so negative on Switch. Like
Really?
they were trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, and then came back and just smacked it some more. So
But
Greg.
yeah.
Hi. Sorry,
What do you
I missed
think?
if you asked me. What did I think?
what do you think about the Switch overall?
I'm completely underwhelmed. I think it has some interesting features that might be cool down the line. It's like I said last week, I was really excited to see new Mario. That is when I would revisit grabbing the system, hoping that between Zelda and Mario, there were enough other games that were interesting to me. But as it stands right now, I watched the comparison video that IGN put up between Zelda on the Wii U and the Switch. There is a clear difference, but it seems to be mostly lighting and shaders and things like that. The one game that I care about for the launch, I can play on my Wii U for $40 because I pre-ordered it ages ago before the game prices went up here in Canada. And at this point, it's a question on launch day. It's a question of spending $40 plus tax to play that game, or going and spending no less than $500 to walk out of the store with the console and one game and no extra controller. And it's too much. I know that Nintendo's not responsible for the dollar, but that's the reality of the situation for me is, I'm spending over $500,000 on this thing just to play one game. No, not a launch thing for me. Not at all.
Yeah. We didn't even really talk about Super Mario Odyssey, the real world Sonic Adventure.
Oh, yeah, style. The Sonic Adventure style. That's the first thing everybody on the stream said when we were watching it, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, going back to, I'm not naive enough to think that there's going to be any kind of price drop on the Switch by the end of this year, but I do hope that maybe there'd be some bundles at that point.
I hope so too. Yeah. Ethan, you've pre-ordered 3, so yes. We know you're in.
I'm definitely in. Yeah, and of course the 3 is 1 is a backup. So
sure.
And actually, I think that the GameStop one that I put together as a backup will ultimately be one of the ones I hold on to, because I love the idea of going to a midnight launch for this. That's going to be really exciting. This hardware I'm looking forward to more than any other piece of electronics ever released. Honestly, I look at this as a potential quality of life change. The ability to be untethered and to play 2017 era games that are console quality is beyond exciting to me. And the other thing that's exciting to me is that I am now sharing this experience with my daughter. So when we were driving home from her gymnastics, we had the presentation on. I couldn't see it. I could only hear it, of course, but she could see it. And when they got to the point where they were counting down the 60 seconds to the actual event starting, she was screaming 19, 18, 17, right? She's so excited, and sharing that excitement with her is a huge, huge thing for me. We're both going to be playing all of these games side by side together. And so that combination of allowing me to play games finally the way I want to have a device that comes out that feels like it was made just for me, and being able to share that with my daughter, and having the opportunity to play a new Zelda game, which, bear in mind, Ocarina of Time is my second favorite game of all time. This couldn't make me happier. I'm distracted in a great way every single day. I just can't wait, and I'm literally counting the days. So the excitement of finally getting my hands on it, playing it, and starting in on Zelda, it's like Christmas times 200 for me. I just can't wait. Yeah, I mean, this is it can't be bigger for me in terms of level of excitement. The event itself last week didn't make me more excited, that's for sure, but it didn't make me less excited either. Because it's the concept and the Zelda experience, and again the fact that I'm sharing it as a family experience that makes it so special.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I didn't pre-order 3; I pre-ordered 2, and I'm not sure. I mean, 1 of course is a backup. I know my daughter is going to be interested in the Switch, and I'm wondering whether I should keep that second one. Just because a dock is $90 and an extra set of Joy-Cons is, $80, and by the time I would buy that, I'd be like more than halfway to another Switch anyway, so may as well. I'm super excited about it because, as you say, yeah, it's the way I want to play games too. The problem is that the way other people want to, and what does that say for the success of this platform? Clearly, third parties are taking a wait-and-see attitude on it, which I had hoped wasn't going to be the case, but clearly I think and hope that Nintendo is holding some cards that they haven't revealed yet for this thing. But overall, I watched a lot of video over the weekend from people who tried the system out, and they were all very positive on the quality of the screen, the quality of the Joy-Cons, the quality of the Pro Controller. So I'm excited about all that stuff. And the Wii U had some of my favorite games. I said on this podcast that I thought the Wii U was one of Nintendo's best systems in terms of software output, and I certainly stand by that. And even though it was a failed system, they put out a lot of really good games.
The quality was definitely up there on pretty much every game they released. Yeah,
especially Splatoon was one of my absolute favorites, and being able to take that on the go or play an impromptu multiplayer game with other people at PAX, that's extremely exciting. So I'm very excited about it as a platform. I think the pricing is going to turn some people off initially, but maybe that's good in the long run. Maybe it would have been a mistake to price it lower and then get a lot of people buying it without a whole lot of software ready for launch. Like I said, I think this is kind of a soft launch period for the next 6 months, and yeah, I'm optimistic about this. Listening to that Glixel podcast and how they were basically bashing the system, I don't know. I'm excited about the potential here, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't see or don't want to see when they talk about the system. They're talking just about launch and not about, okay, it's Nintendo, so you're going to get an Animal Crossing game. You're going to get like certain franchises will show up on this system. So I'm excited about the potential, and I'm excited about what this brings to the way I play video games.
Well, but CJ, and again, with all the negativity, I do understand it in that, as excited as I am for it, I do think this will be the last dedicated handheld machine that we ever see. I do think that the future of handheld gaming is free-to-play mobile, which is the saddest thing to me in the world. But I think it's true. And I think that, the reason I'm looking at this day one as a collector viable platform is I just don't think there's ultimately going to be that much software for it. I think that it will live, hopefully 4 years, maybe 5. But by the time this is done, there will also be no 3DS. And obviously Vita will be a long ago memory, and that will be it. And so I'm trying to hold on to this as like the exciting kind of last window for handheld gaming. And I wish it weren't so, but do you disagree?
I think that
I don't know.
I agree.
I think. Go ahead, Greg.
I agree with you in the sense that, because I've been saying kind of the same thing, not necessarily this will be the last dedicated handheld console, but that this could be Nintendo's Dreamcast. I do feel that is the case. Not because I think just to finish, not because I think they're making any huge missteps here from a hardware standpoint. I mean, I do in some senses, but I just feel like without having the third-party support that it seems like they don't have, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle this year. And like I said earlier, being almost the sole AAA game provider for your hardware is not sustainable.
Yeah, I hope that this is not the last we see. I think people have been saying, oh, this is going to be the last console Nintendo makes for a long time. And even before the PS4 and Xbox One came out, were dead. And I think there's still a pretty healthy market for dedicated consoles out there, so that obviously didn't come true. I do wonder, there were a lot of people saying, oh, why don't they just bring a bunch of mobile games over to the Switch and use the touchscreen? And I really wish and hope that doesn't happen. I think the people making those comments, probably people who don't play a whole lot of mobile games in general, or they only buy like one premium mobile game. Like last year they bought Reigns on iOS and they thought that was fantastic. So they should bring Reigns over to Nintendo Switch. It's a perfect game. That's not really what the mobile market is, though, right now. So for people to be saying to come to Switch, to me is like, no. What are you saying? Like, who in their right mind? I think we said this last week, would want Puzzle and Dragons or Clash of Clans on the Nintendo Switch when they have their cell phone with them already. They go, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Those two things are at odds.
And Nintendo knows that to the point where Nintendo is assuming you have a mobile phone to be able to do the communications on your Switch device. So, I mean, frankly, if you love Puzzle and Dragon, it's going to be easier for you to just play that on your phone.
Yeah. I think we may see something like Nintendo partnered up with them to do that.
Like a Mario style?
Mario Puzzle and Dragons. I think that worked, but
but it would be a premium game. It would be different.
Clash Royale or something like that. I wouldn't want to see a Mushroom Kingdom version of that. But
do not want.
More Fire Emblem Muso, please. Right?
I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
Yes.
Which we're getting a Fire
CJ.
Emblem Direct this week. So
Yeah. CJ, you gonna be picking up Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2?
You know he is.
The fact that I already own Dragon Quest Heroes 1 is like I haven't finished that game on the PS4 yet, so I'm not sure if I'll buy the double pack on Switch or just finish the first one on PS4. I don't know.
I might.
I am glad that
that's going to get picked up here.
Yet again, that would be a great launch game. I would definitely buy that if it was day one.
Yeah, would have been nice.
Would you buy it if it's day 93?
Probably, but I mean, it just depends because, again, I'm going to be trying to prioritize Switch where I can, but it's not the only platform out there. And, so we'll see. Depends on what else is out.
Okay. Is that where we should end it?
I think so.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Anybody want to say anything more about the Nintendo Switch today?
I feel like we've said everything about the
How
Nintendo
about
Switch.
that translator?
Oh my God. Okay, I will say one thing that I thought was hilarious. It was super clear right from the start that the translators had the script that they were meant to be translating because they kept getting ahead of the guys that were actually doing the presentation until Suda51 came on stage.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. That was hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah. What a shame.
Translation of that. I think. Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1Podcast on the Twitter, or you can go to our internet website at air1podcast.com. There you'll find our contact information. You'll find blog entries about Sega CD stuff from Mr. Greg Seward.
I'm working on the next one this week.
Very nice. And you'll find Generation 16 episodes there as well.
Still working on the next one of those too.
You'll find a message board where you can discuss this episode with with us and our other listeners.
And now I'd like to switch over to Phil. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And now to switch over to Phil.
Hey, if you'd like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do so by visiting player1podcast.com or by going to the iTunes Music Store. While you're at the iTunes Music Store, you can invest $1.99.
Cheap.
Pick up the Player One Podcast iPhone application. It gives you one-touch communication with us via the emails, the Twitter. I almost did it this week. The emails, the Twitters, the what have you. You also have all of our episodes ready to stream right to your listening device. And hey, Android cell phone, telephone users, the Player One Podcast iPhone application is available for your listening device as well for that same $1.99.
Hey guys, so I found this great console, which is what I've always dreamed of. Lets me take the console experience on the road, untether from the television, so I don't have to fight with my children or my wife, my ex-wife, for the TV.
Right.
Gets about 2 to 5 hours of battery life, but yeah, the Nomad.
The Nomad.
Yeah.
Nomad.
Why, even the name suggests traveling around, doesn't it?
It's not the Sega Stay. Sega Stay Put.
Sorry, the batteries died. Also cheap.
You can find that right over there at the Amazon Android Marketplace. You can also find us on Stitcher Radio. You can like us on Facebook. You can check out archives of our shows and watch us live most weeks on the youtubes.com/P1 podcast. And if you've liked what you've heard, and how could you can head over to patreon.com/P1 podcast. Throw a few shekels our way. Who knows what wonderful things it will buy us.
True. And hey, I want to do one update here. By the way, our Patreon page now just has one support level, $1 an episode. So that's all we're asking for.
Is that
right? Come on over to the Patreon. Do $1 an episode if you like. You can put a monthly cap on it if you want. So if you don't want to spend more than $3, you can have it do that as well. But supports the show, keeps us doing what we're doing, and occasionally buys us a game like we did recently with Last Guardian.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Or like a Game Shark, like CJ has behind Toe Jam and Earl back there.
You can see that. Oh yeah.
Why do you still have a Game Shark?
I don't know.
I still have a Game
Don't
Shark.
know. It's still in its little box too.
What system is that Game Shark for?
I don't know.
Let's see. He's gonna make the. He's turning around, folks. He's looking. It is
The Game
for
Shark CDX as well. I don't know.
For the CDX.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll look after the show.
Okay, good enough.
I'll give you an update.
And if you have a couple bucks left over afterwards, you can head over to generation-16.com. Find a link to Greg Stewart's Patreon page for his fantastic web series, Generation 16, chronicling the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the backs and forths of the Sega Genesis, America's first untethered
Switch.
from the TV experience. The Nomad came out. The Nomad predated the Turbo Express, right?
I don't believe it did, actually. No.
Oh,
I
no,
don't
you're
think so.
right. You're right.
But
Yeah, I believe you are right.
But what it offered that the Express didn't is that you could also, of course, use it as a console on your television.
That's
It's
true.
Ah.
And you could also play 2 players or more by adding a controller or a multi-tap
There you
to this
go.
little baby down here.
Fantastic.
The Turbo Express did not function
Express
as
did not do that. Although you could buy the TV tuner for the Turbo Express, which just popped in right there.
That is true. Of course,
Oh.
And the Turbo Express is extremely sexy. Let's be honest.
it really
It's
is.
a nice looking machine.
It is a nice
I
looking machine.
love the Turbo Express.
brick.
I
Do
wish
you
I
have
had
a TV
a Turbo
tuner?
Express.
I do not. I have a TV tuner for the Game Gear, which oddly enough I don't own a Game Gear, but I don't have one.
Really?
For the
You don't
Turbo
own a
Express.
Game Gear?
No, I don't. I had a friend give
Man.
me one, so I guess technically I do, but it needs to be recapped. It doesn't work. So
Oh, yeah.
which is a big problem with Game Gears.
Those burn out, yeah.
And the
Man,
Turbo
I
Express,
mean-
actually.
With that thing, you could watch Growing Pains wherever you wanted, man.
I know, right? I'm Canadian. Family Ties is what we were watching.
Of course,
Michael J. Fox for life.
There you
Of
go.
course, those TV tuners are pretty much useless nowadays.
They are.
Yeah. You're not picking up any signals. But CJ,
Yeah, huh?
thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Phil. And I want to say
Yes.
thank you to everybody who joined this week on our YouTube stream. We had
Yeah, the chat
over
was
50
popping.
viewers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
At any one time. I think a lot of people dropped in and out, but thanks everybody
Right.
for showing up. If you're new to the show, player1podcast.com. Check out some of our other episodes.
if you
Mhm.
dare.
If you dare.
Dun, dun, dun.
And to be fair, most of the hosts kind of check in and out of the show every week as we
True.
record.
That's
So
true.
It's not too much of a surprise. Greg,
Hi.
thank you.
Thank you. And also wanted to call out real quick that I jumped in and recorded an episode of the Sega Does podcast with Dylan
Oh.
Cornelius this
Oh,
week.
cool.
I'm not sure when it goes up, but I'm guessing it'll be up this week. We got to talk about some cool Genesis stuff that came out in 1990, so you should check it out. It's a fun little show.
Nice.
Great.
SegaDoes.com.
And Sega does. What Nintendo don't, right, Ethan?
That's right.
Thank you for
Yep.
joining us as well, Ethan. It's
Oh,
always
well,
a treat.
thank you. Yeah. It's always fun to talk about the greatest new hardware release of all time.
You know, we
Good
like
Lord.
to we like to give you a bit of the razz, Ethan, but our love for you will never sunset.
Good.
So-
Indeed.
But it does
There
have a
you go.
spend cap, so watch it. Only put up with so much.
Yeah. I guess we'll see everyone next week.
Let's do it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.